Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Women Empowerment Award podcast. I'm your host, Courtney Gideon, and it is my pleasure today to introduce President and COO of Indeed Labs, Women Empowerment Advocate, and official sponsor of this year's Women Empowerment Awards, Dimitra Davidson. Dimitra, what an honor to have you here. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Wow, that's very nice of you. Thank you. I'm very honored to be here.
Of course, of course. I'm so excited to do this. This is my first interview this year, and I couldn't think of anyone better to interview. So let's get to it because there's so much to discuss, and I'm so interested in, learning more about you. First of all, I'm a firm believer in how we grew up really shapes who we are and who we become. So can you give us a little bit of information on, what early life was like for you and how you think it shaped who you are today?
Sure. Yeah. I grew up in Toronto. I grew up in East York. My background is Greek. My parents were immigrants. I grew up in a very loving community of extended family. I've got the big fat Greek family. And I was very fortunate. I have a lot of, even to this day, a lot of fans. We were very nurtured as an immigrant family and a community. And but I always had a lot of focus, and I knew what my goals and my dreams were. And I think that it was also difficult for me growing up in a very traditional environment with traditional expectations. So as a young girl, I think back now, I just had to kind of balance what my needs were as a young girl that maybe did not fit the needs, or not necessarily the needs, but the path that maybe my parents had set out for me.
Yeah. So how do you do that? Because that's a hard thing to do. That's hard to step out of that tradition and what you've always seen modeled for you. How did you do that?
I think it was kind of very instinctive. I started working at a very young age, and I grew up, like I said, I grew up in a home where it was very traditional. So, and a very protected environment. I was not very worldly. I was not exposed to a lot. We went to school. We spent a lot of time with our family, but beyond those borders, there was really nothing else for me. And I think I just got a taste of what your world could look like. And I had a little bit of money as a young girl because I was working, and I wanted to kind of break out of that mold. I wanted to get out of that environment, and just, I think I was very ambitious. I think the only way I could describe it is ambitious, and not to suggest that my family didn't want me to, expand my horizons, but maybe their view of what my life would have looked like was different than what I had expected for myself or what I wanted for myself.
Yeah. So it sounds like you carved your own path.
That's right. Not as, instinctively, I kind of just set my goals as I went along. I didn't really know where it would take me. So as a young girl, I definitely always knew I wanted to have my own career. I knew that I didn't want it, the sort of the traditional, get married at a young age, stay home mom. No disrespect. It's beautiful. I'm a mother myself. I love spending time with my children. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. I think I always aspired to be a businesswoman somehow. I didn't even really know how that was defined or what that really meant. I just knew that that's sort of what I wanted to do.
Right. So was that what, the young Dimitra dreamed of becoming one day, was businesswoman, or was there like some other crazy thing that you dreamed of and now, you landed here?
Oh, there was always a lot of things that I dreamed of. I also dreamed of being a princess, but that never happened.
Yeah.
I dream of the regular stuff. I think that a lot of kids dream about. But I think as every stage of my life, gave me tools, and it taught me certain things, and I met people. And then as I went along, I realized that my skill sets evolved and my interests evolved. And then it just kind of led the way. And I think I was always very open to, not, if things don't work out exactly like this, then maybe they're going to be like that. And I think I'm like that even to this day. I just kind of let my road take me wherever it's going to go. And so I think maybe that guided me really well. As laser focused as I've always been on my goals, I know that if it doesn't work out the way I want it to be, then it's a different path for me, and that's okay too. I think that's kind of where I've always taken it.
For sure. I love that. And you were talking about some people along the way on your path. Can you look back and think, okay, that person was really pivotal in my journey? And if so, how?
Yeah, definitely. As a young girl, I was the youngest of all, like most of my cousins and my extended family, and my extended family was my family. We spent a lot of time together. So I think as a young girl, a lot of the way that I saw the world was shaped and molded by some of the other women in my life, you know, my wonderful cousins and my aunts and uncles, and sorry, women and men in my life, my father, and you know, so a lot of them paved the way. So the older generation taught me the values of our community, our heritage. The younger generation, my older cousins, sort of paved the way for, you know, assimilating into our new world here and kind of opening those doors where my parents were very traditional and tried to hold us really close. And so they kind of paved the way. So by the time I came around, you know, some of my cousins had already been married, they'd already had children, they had already had their careers. And so they, you know, and for me as a young girl, I really looked up to them. And, you know, my brother, his wife, like all these people, they played a very big role in molding me and my career, and always very supportive of what I wanted to do. And they still are to this day. So I think that sense of community was really very instrumental for me as a young girl.
Yeah, and I love the different parts about that community that you talk about, you know, the old, the anchor, right? The new vision, you know, trying out new things. Like it sounds like not, I don't want to say the perfect storm, but it sounds like a really great spot for you to find your way and to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we all really recognize that we have such a fondness and such a deep love for one another. We still have family events where we all get together and we share that with one another. We laugh about our good times. And, you know, I'm very, again, I recognize that not everybody has that. You know, when I speak to people, I'm surprised a lot of times, or I was, you know, to see that not everybody had this massive, you know, cushion around them. And that's the only way I could describe it. Lots of love, lots of community. And I think it gave me the courage, always just knowing that people would stand behind me with whatever I decided to do. And it was very encouraging to, you know, it's nice when you have a dream as a young kid. And even though you might not have the resources and the means, but to at least have this encouragement that, yes, you're great, you can do whatever you put your mind to. And even though my family is very traditional, my dad was also very encouraging, which was not normal for, you know, a traditional Greek home. And so they were very nurturing that way. And I think it gave me a lot of comfort to know that I could follow my dreams and my goals.
Wow. That's amazing. That
Yeah.
support. That's so important. I mean, so important.
Yeah.
Um, so that's wonderful and that's beautiful. And thank you for sharing, you know, that with us. I want
Yeah.
to pivot for a second and I want to talk about skincare. So
Sure.
Indeed Labs, you're the president and COO. So tell us more about that. What do you guys provide? Tell us about that brand.
Sure, I would love to tell you about my brand. So Indeed Labs started, we launched the brand 15 years ago. Uh, Basically, we wanted to bring a point of difference to consumers. Back then, very frustrated that I couldn't find things that I needed as a young mom, as a consumer, frustrated that I couldn't address the concerns that I had. I had some hyperpigmentation at the time. I went to a dermatologist. The dermatologist prescribed hydroquinone. I didn't know what that was. I looked it up. I was nursing my 6-month-old daughter. I was nervous to use this ingredient after what I had read about it. But I wanted to get rid of this hyperpigmentation, this discoloring that I'd had from the pregnancy. And so the idea of creating a brand that actually spoke to a consumer, creating a brand that if I was going to spend money on this product, I knew that it was going to give me the results I wanted. Creating a brand that wasn't a one size fits all. Back then, if you could think 15 years ago, skincare was very regime based. You know, it was your cleanser, your toner, your moisturizer, your night treatment. And I was frustrated because I was trying that and it wasn't working. I just wanted to treat this.
Yeah.
So the idea of we can have targeted skincare, we can have skincare products that are target solution. So that was kind of where the ethos of the brand came from. And we launched with NanoBlur because NanoBlur is the only product within our range that is an instant product. It's not a treatment product. It's like a filter. It basically filters your skin. And
Wow.
so we launched with that because we were going to make some bold claims that, you know, we were trying to catch the attention of consumers. But what we were really trying to do was show consumers that we had created a range of products that really do work, starting with this particular product, NanoBlur. So we launched with a range of products, called out ingredients, but the highest levels of the best actives that we could find. We made it We made the brand free from any harmful chemicals. So back then it was free from parabens, fragrances, sulfates, phthalates, which people didn't even talk about back then. We called out the ingredients on the packaging, and then we spoke to real consumers. We took real people and we did our advertising using real people and real models, which was, again, unheard of back then. So we caught the attention of consumers all over the world right when we launched. And I'm just so proud to say that to this day, we keep going strong. We're a global brand. We're many markets around the world. And I just launched a new skincare brand called Finn, which is my answer to treating acne.
Okay. All right. Very good. Yeah, because that's a whole other area now. Thankfully, growing up, I mean, growing up, you have the blemishes and anything, but some people really, really suffer with terrible acne. So is that kind of your desire to go into that market? What kind of pushed you to that specific need?
Yeah, so again, as a skincare brand traveling the world and listening to concerns of consumers everywhere, obviously one of the number one concerns is how do I treat acne? And when I was a young girl in my early 20s, I was using a system that treated acne quite effectively. And I was on a subscription for it. But what I didn't realize is it had ingredients like benzoyl peroxide and salicylic acid that you shouldn't be using over extended periods of time. So again, I went to my dermatologist, and my dermatologist said, how long have you been on this? You shouldn't be on this, for extended periods of time. That's not good for your skin. So fast forward, I wanted to create a product or products that could treat acne without breaking down your skin's barrier, without something harmful in there. And so we've been really hard working in our lab trying to come up with a solution for that. And so we've come up with a 3-step system, which is microbiome certified, clinically proven, which means that it doesn't break down your skin's barrier function. It doesn't use harmful ingredients like salicylic acid and benzoyl peroxide. And so it's quite revolutionary in the way that it treats acne. It actually targets only the bad bacteria and not the good and the bad, which is what traditional acne treatments do. So it's very revolutionary, and we just launched in the industry, and super excited about it. There's nothing like it. So we're, very thrilled about it.
So what does your team look like? Because as you're talking to me about all of these products and testing and labs, I think, oh my gosh, you must have like a team of scientists, behind the scenes. Tell me a little bit more about that team.
Sure, I'd love to. So I have a team. We are, as we formulate, as I said. So we have a lab. I do have 2 scientists that help me formulate. I come up with ideas, and they create them for me. That's basically the way it goes. I'm a consumer. I love skincare. I look for new innovation. I hear about active ingredients. Sometimes I hear about an active ingredient when we build a product around it. Other times I have a need and I ask them to create a product for me to fill that need. Nanobronze is a good example of that need that I had as a consumer myself. And so we went into the lab and we created this award-winning product. And so, yes, I have a team of formulators. I have a team of graphic designers who create packaging for me. We source out the components. Everything happens in-house, from our marketing campaign. We have marketing people. I have content creators. We run all of our own digital marketing. We do all of our own in-house PR here in Canada. I have a content studio. I'm sitting in it right now, where we create a content and we bring community in, other content creators in the community. So lots to unpack, but there's a lot going on in my life at any given time. A lot. I usually don't talk a lot about it. I just kind of keep going through the motions, but I do have a great team of people that make me look good and make the brand look great.
Wow. Well, this is amazing, and so nice to highlight, all the efforts that you've gone to and the team to create, both amazing lines that you have. You are the official sponsor for the Women Empowerment Awards, which I think is so fantastic and so exciting. Why is supporting this event important to you?
I have to say that when I attended the first annual last year, I was absolutely blown away. I knew where I was going. I knew it was a women empowerment. I did not know what to expect. And although I've done a lot of community work over the years and have supported many great causes in our community, I do consider myself one that's very connected with community and very philanthropic. This particular event for me just showed me the potential in our community. I have always felt that I have been an advocate for women and women in business. I have 3 daughters myself. Just through the nature of the industry that I'm in, I seem to always be recruiting young professionals that are women. And I I guess coming out of my bubble that night, I didn't realize, I knew that women are in business, and obviously, and I knew that women are thriving in business and women have struggles in business. I just felt there was such a strong connection to change makers and world leaders in the room that night that I felt very humbled and very excited about the opportunities for for this cause, for to bring other people together and empower them and allow them to thrive and grow in their own communities. So for me, it might be that I'm a business owner and I have this brand, but for others, there was other areas of focus, philanthropy, and like I said, changing our world for a better place. And that was what was really, really key to me. I was very, very impressed with it. And I think that it's something that was so near and dear to my heart as a businesswoman, as a mother myself.
Yeah, yeah, I really echo your statement in terms of, the impact of that evening. I was there as well, and just hearing the unbelievable, stories, challenges, triumphs, everything that all of those amazing change makers on that stage, have gone through. Yeah, I was really moved by that. What a night. Like you said, not really sure what you're going into, and it's like, holy smokes, like wow, it was just overwhelming, I felt.
It was for me as a business owner. It made me take a step back. It reminded me to lead with purpose. It reminded me to reset myself and really understand what the overall idea, objective, goal was for me as a business owner and as a woman in business. Not, again, not just building this unbelievable brand, but the connections that I make with consumers all over the world, hearing their voices, giving them a platform, opening our doors, bringing community together, trying to make a change wherever I can. And as you know, it's very difficult to be everything to everybody, but taking a reset and a step back and understanding even what your own purpose and your goal is. It was a beautiful reset for me. It came, obviously coming right out of COVID. It was the first time that we'd been together in a room like that. And I just loved everything about it. I think Claudia is an unbelievable, sharp mind and a great leader herself. And it was a very natural thing for me. I didn't even have to think about it. I just was like, sign me up. Like, let's do that.
Wonderful. Well, that's so great. So exciting for, the women empowerment team as well, for sure. Now, you had mentioned the importance of women to you in your life and that you're a mother to 3 girls. Well, okay, what's that like? Let's start there.
They teach me every day. You know what? It's been obviously my greatest joy and my best achievement in my life is being a mom. I have one daughter who lives in Germany and she's a writer. She does some copywriting for us as well. I have a younger daughter who's in grade 11, a 16-year-old, and of course my second daughter, Brienne, who just got into an art school in the US, all very different. I love that my girls have chosen their own path, have challenged me to be who they are and not who I want them to be. That's always what I've always wanted for my kids. Have taught me a lot, continue to teach me a lot. And I don't know, like I didn't expect to be a mom to 3 daughters, but I've obviously enjoyed and I have to say my girls are extremely supportive of me in business. They haven't given me a hard time. They're very, 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 very good to me. And we grow together, and I try not to be a businesswoman. I try to be a mom with them. So I don't try not to talk about work too much. And that's hard because, it's my life right now. It's everything I do from the minute I wake up till the minute I fall asleep. So I just try to be a mom to them.
Yeah.
Is that a good example?
Well, I'm a mom, and I know that as soon as I had my daughter, things change. I am forever changed in a great way because of her. And I'm just curious to know how having these 3 girls has affected your journey in business, because you said it is such a big part of your life. So combining that, how has that affected you? And also becoming an advocate for women empowerment.
I take their advice a lot. I'm in the type of business that listening to a 16-year-old is very important. Listening to a Gen Z, listening to a millennial, it's very important for me. So from a business perspective, I'm very lucky that I can have their perspective because it's very important. And also, my daughter, one of my daughters travels the world, so she can give me a different perspective, which is very valuable to me. I think that, generally speaking, my girls have always made me want to just be a better person in general, not just a better businesswoman. Like I've just always wanted to pave a way for them, set a good example for them and do right by them, and just always give them whatever they need, without giving too much. So I think they've taught me, they taught me how to be a nurturing, leader in business. My staff, I often feel, obviously you don't want to cross any boundaries, but I do feel very empathetic to a lot of the issues that, we would have as employers with your staff. For me, I feel like my children teach me to be a better employer, to always empathize, because I could see my children in them. So there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of, as a business owner, when especially an entrepreneurial environment, there's a lot of crossover between family and business, but they teach me to be a better person. They bring their perspective. They're not afraid to say things to me, which is really great, because maybe my team would be afraid to say that to me. My children won't. They'll say, Mom, you should think of this perspective. This is not really, take a step back and look at this. And I think it's been very, very good for me as a business owner, and especially in a consumer facing global brand.
Yes. Yeah. So that communication sounds really open with you and your daughters. And I think that that's so important for so many levels. But again, kind of reflecting back on my life with my daughter, although she's 5, she's almost 6 years old, so I'm not quite there yet. But you see a lot of women, you see a lot of young women, and also as a mom, like all of this combined, being in this industry, how do we talk to our girls about beauty and body image? I'd love to know your feedback on that.
Yeah, that's a very difficult one, but and it's not just as a mom, as a businesswoman in the beauty world, I've always said, and this is, going back when I started the brand, beauty is a personal thing. It's not what you look like on the exterior. It's the way you carry yourself. It's the way you feel about yourself. I can, and my children teach me this a lot. And I was recently just interviewed about this very same question. And I said, I use my older daughter as an example. When she was sort of getting to be a little bit more independent, I would take her to get her hair cut. And I'd say, your hair is growing and looks really, really nice. Just like maybe just get a few layers and just let it be, just get it trimmed. And she would come out and her hair would be all cut off. And I'd say, what, I thought we talked about this. Why did you do that? And I don't know if it was an act of rebellion. Maybe it was. But maybe she just wanted to own her own look. Maybe she wasn't comfortable in what mom was putting her in. Yeah. And so she taught me a lot. She taught me that she felt beautiful looking a different way. That wasn't what I envisioned for my daughter. And I was so happy to embrace that. And each and every one of my daughters has their own individual, their own look, the way they carry themselves, their own interest. And I think I've nurtured that at home with my children. And I want to nurture that in our world for our consumers. You don't, the question of what am I wearing? What are we wearing tonight? It's an individual thing. Be yourself, be comfortable in your own skin. And everybody carries themselves differently. And beauty is an inner thing, not an exterior thing. Yeah. Is what I think.
Yeah.
It's hard to define the word beauty. There's not one definition for the word beauty.
Yeah. And I just find that I completely resonate with what you're saying. I feel like part of me inside is like battling a little bit with what we see on social media, defining beauty, and I wonder if you see some of that too with the people who walk through your door.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that. But we also see a lot of, because of the nature of our business, we see a lot of a veer into a different perception or a different acceptance, a positivity, acne positivity, body positivity. And I'm so happy that we can embrace that. When I first launched in this industry, because we were taking pictures of people, real people, we weren't even, we tried to run an ad in a very traditional publication that wouldn't run it because the model wasn't pretty enough. And fast forward years later, when I went to visit them, and met with the editors, we had a laugh about it. I said, do you remember when you guys wouldn't let us put the ad in because she wasn't beautiful enough? That's exactly what we were trying to do. When we launched in this business, we wanted to lead with real people and real results, not airbrush models, not celebrity endorsements, not something that was not achievable and not attainable. And so the world has really shifted quite a bit. And even though there's still a lot of pressure on us, I think the acceptance that being yourself and being comfortable in yourself is something that I think is more, we're embracing more today, and we need to continue to do better at it. But I think we are embracing it. And I think that younger generations for sure are teaching us as well how to embrace that and not to put too much pressure on ourselves. Just because I like something doesn't mean that everyone, example, I wear a lot of makeup. I always have. I love playing with makeup as a young girl. Loved it. That was like my favorite pastime. My older daughters, you can't put makeup on them. They just won't wear it. They don't like it. They don't want it. Great. They'll wear it when they want. If they don't want to and they're not comfortable, that's good too. And so very different. And I love that they, again, I love that they own their own comfort, and that they're comfortable in their own skin. I mean, that's what it should be all about, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, such an important point. Absolutely. And you were talking about, how things used to be versus how they are now. And so what I'm interested to know, as starting a company is never easy, and here you have more than one. But what is one major challenge you experienced starting your company or companies, and how have you overcome it?
I would say like sort of the daily struggle as a business owner is always that imposter syndrome. It's a lot of risk running your own business. It's a risk every day, not just launching. Launching is obviously a risk because you don't know how it's going to be received. And there's obviously a lot of things that you need to consider, from financing to staffing to all of the different challenges. But I still have to deal with with that every single day in my business. When I'm launching a new product, it's almost like launching a new brand, or launching a new business, because you don't know how it's going to be received. And so every decision that you make, you're always, as a business owner, at least me, I'm always questioning, is that the right decision? And you have to go by your instincts. Obviously, you're going to weigh out the risk and the opportunities. You're going to look at all the variables. Does this make a lot of sense? So I think that in general, it's a daily struggle. Am I making the right decision? And there's going to be some wins, and there's going to be some, what I don't call losses or setbacks, I call them learnings. And I say that to my team all the time. Every struggle is a learning. What did we learn from this? How can we do better from this? And so you just keep going. But that's my biggest challenge. You're always worried. There's a lot invested in this. My big challenge is I've invested a lot in this. I don't have a crystal ball. How's this going to play out? Did I make a mistake? I have a board that I have to answer to, just like everybody else, right? I didn't fund this business by myself. So I have a board that I have to answer to. It's unnerving trying to make those, taking those risks and trying to make the right decision. And so again, when I sat in the room and I listened to these people, and I listened to their incredible struggles, unless you've been through it, you can't really connect on that level. You don't know what it's like. When you have a job, obviously you have a responsibility, but to some degree you can disconnect. When you have your own business and a lot invested in it, you're not really disconnecting. It's really a struggle to challenge to keep yourself healthy and make sure that you understand your purpose, and so that you could be able to sleep at night. Like it's really a challenge sometimes.
Yes, yes. And what you said, healthy, that's a huge part because, I'm in the mental health world. That's a big area that I'm involved in. And I'm interested to know, through some of the learnings, like, you call them the ups and downs. Have you ever battled with your mental health? Has that ever been a thing for you? And how did you manage to get through? If you have, maybe you haven't.
Yes, sure, of course. I have anxieties just like others, just like everybody else, and I do suffer from anxiety. I do. And when I said that to my daughter, I'm kind of chuckling as I say it, because I said to my girls last night, I said, I have anxiety disorder, and they're like, oh, mom, no, you don't. You're just using that as an excuse, and because they see that I'm able to persevere through it. And I did struggle with anxiety as a young girl. I do have anxiety disorder. But I do have a really good way of managing my anxiety. I think we all have anxiety, but as a young girl, I could let myself run off a little bit if I didn't check in. So I know how to manage my anxiety. I can get through it. It's never been debilitating enough that I can't struggle, or that I've struggled. But I do understand what it feels like when that bubble's about to burst. I get it. I understand it. I'm hypersensitive. People come to me with anxiety issues all the time. And unless you actually feel that way and have felt that way, it's really hard to understand what someone is going through when they say, I'm I have debilitating anxiety. I do know what that feels like. I do know what it's like, but I've been able to somehow persevere through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it sounds like, maybe you're a role model for some people too. It sounds like you're somebody who a lot of people come to for guidance and help and support. And now I'm interested to know, in terms of you, have you ever gone to somebody for some advice? And if so, if there's one best piece of advice that you ever received that stands out.
That's a tough one. Well, first I'll answer the short, and the short answer is yes, of course. I've actually spoken to professionals before in the past, whether through for business support or in my personal life. I've gone through challenges just like everybody else. I think the best advice that I've given myself, and maybe it was through my journey, maybe someone else told me, or maybe I just instinctively knew, is the check-in and the boundaries. So I shut myself down if I need to, and I know how to recognize when I'm getting to that point.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I know when I know, even when I'm not feeling it yet, that this ought to be something that's going to lead me to something that's not healthy, because obviously this is not sustainable. So for example, if my schedule is overwhelmed and I've done too much and I haven't had time to rest,
Yeah.
then I will take a day off and say, okay, I need to rest because I know I'm going to get into trouble if I don't. So it's just that mental check-in. But yeah, I've received tons of advice over the years. Advice like, just don't focus on the negative stuff, the negative noise and the negative chatter. Don't listen to that. Focus your energy on the positive things, because the positive things are what can make a change in my life and in our world. So when I feel down or I feel upset, and it could be personal stuff, it could be anything, I try not to focus on the negative stuff. I thankfully have enough stuff that I can focus on positively, whether that is nurturing my staff, putting a different strategy in place, giving back to community, helping a friend, stopping and just being with my children, creating. I love to create. I feel like I need a creative outlet. So I love to bake. I love to cook. So those are some of the things that I try to focus on, the positive energy, and not really think about the negative. And also, I've gotten very, very good now at just removing myself from negative situations where I wasn't so good before. And that's, no disrespect to anybody, but if it's not a good situation, I think it's important that we recognize and remove ourselves quickly.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And I think I'm learning that now too. That hasn't always been an easy one. But yeah, it's okay to say no. It's okay to step away. It's okay not to be involved all the time, right? If it's not good for you.
Yeah.
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 So we're coming to the end. I have just two questions left. The time always flies by. Is there any other women you look up to and admire?
I look up to and admire many women. I mean, business leaders, Michelle Obama. I mean, I listen to all kinds of, incredible women in business, especially in my world as well, and in our community. I think that I stay very connected to those women in my life that help me and help me through challenges. And I think that I have to shout out to them, because they're the ones that prop me up. They're the ones that are my pillars. They're the ones that give me the strength and the fuel to do what I do, especially like I said earlier, when I'm second guessing myself. And so we can give a lot of credit to amazing women in our world, but I think it's also important to take a step back and recognize those that are in the shadows, or possibly those that are not public, and those that are going through their daily struggles, but propping up and helping other people. Those are the women in my community, whether it's my staff, my general manager, who's been with me and has helped me, raise my children and be part of our business journey for years. Those are the people that I think are very important, that I call out to on the daily and recognize. And those are the people that, quite frankly, if I had to get up and speak about, women and empowering women, and women that have encouraged and empowered me, I would speak about my micro community of women supporters that have been so instrumental in my life.
Wow, that's so close to the heart. I love that. That's so special.
Yeah.
Okay, last question, and I do ask all of my guests this. If there, was one piece of advice you could give to your younger self, what do you think it would be?
Oh, I love this one. I say it all the time. I don't like to use the word waste time, but to just value and appreciate time. And I think that that's the only thing that I can impart to our younger world. And that is that one thing that you do have is time. So if you are not in the right situation, if you're not seeing the results that you want, but this is your dream, put in the time. Things will change. You will see that the baby steps will get you to reach your ultimate goals. But if you're not in the right situation and you do have time, time is very, very important. And I feel that if I had really focused on that as an asset in my life as a younger person, I probably wouldn't have wasted as much time as I did worrying about things, not moving fast enough, staying. But, all of it molded me in who I am to this day. Obviously, I have no regrets in my life, but just recognizing that time is so valuable, I think, is the one thing that I would have told myself.
Wow. Dimitra Davidson, CEO of Indeed Labs, women empowerment advocate, and official sponsor of this year's Women Empowerment Awards. What an honor. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure getting to know you and your brand and your journey a little bit. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All right. Yes.
Bye-bye.
Don't forget to make sure you get your tickets for the 2023 Women Empowerment Awards coming up in September. And you can go on their socials to find out more information. And we'll see you next time.